everyone, and welcome into the 5th episode of the ATFFBall show. Today I'm going to be going over my post-free agency power rankings, so these ones are obviously going to be a little bit different than the ones we did a few weeks ago, but they'll still have the same core of stuff, but obviously there's been some huge changes, so I thought it felt necessary to switch my power rankings, because a lot of people were talking to me, saying that my power rankings weren't, they were kind of trashing my power rankings. I was just saying, they're a lot different now, obviously, because of this free agency, and I want to be able to make an episode changing my power rankings to show you guys what I think now post-free agency, because a lot has changed. Alright, so first off, my number one is just like it was last couple weeks ago. It's the Chiefs. With Patrick Mahomes, he's obviously still the best quarterback in the league right now, and then they got that absurd receiving core, just insane speed all around, and then you've got pair it with Travis Kelce in the tight end role. It's just insane there. And the defense was way improved from last year, from 2018 with Tyrann Mathieu. He just completely just fixed that defense. He was the missing piece they needed. And also, the last hole they really have is a running back. And I'm not saying that Damian Williams is bad. Damian Williams is pretty good, but they could use someone who could just run it downfield. And I think that someone like Jonathan Taylor in the draft would be good for them. Number two, once again, no changes here. I have the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's still going to be great for a couple more years. Like I said in a few weeks ago episode in the Power Rankings, I've never liked quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson because he will only be good for a few more years. And if you don't believe me, alright, well, that's what everyone told me when I said the same thing about Cam Newton. It's with all of these running quarterbacks, they never last long, so I can guarantee that one. So he's not some quarterback that's going to last them years and years. But, however, for this next year, he will still be great. They also got a great running back trio in Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, Mark Ingram. They added Calais Campbell via free agency. No, not via free agency. They traded for him for a 5th round pick. And their biggest holes are wide receiver and middle linebacker. Maybe they can pick up a middle linebacker in free agency and draft some wide receiver. I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and draft a wide receiver. At number 3, I've got the New Orleans Saints. So, if we weren't following free agency, the Saints signed Drew Brees to a 2-year, $50 million deal, keeping him on the team through 2022. So, they're going to have him on the team for a while, which is good for them. Drew Brees is still playing his best football right now. Last year he set a single-season game record for completion percentage. He's not slowing down right now. And then the big signing of theirs, they signed Emmanuel Sanders. That is huge because their biggest hole was that after Michael Thomas on their wide receiver core, they had no one. Sure, they had Jared Cook, but on their wide receivers, it was Michael Thomas and then no one. It's all they had was Ted Ginn and Traquan Smith. But now they add a top 30 wide receiver in Emmanuel Sanders. Really, there's no holes on this team anymore other than maybe linebacker. At number 4, I have the Atlanta Falcons. So if you've been following me this last year at all, you would know that I'm really hyped on the Falcons this next year because let's just quick go back to their last 8 games of 2019. So, in their last 8 games, they won 6. And in those games, they beat both New Orleans and San Francisco on the road. That's not easy to do. And also, they signed Dante Fowler, which was a huge transaction for them, edge rusher. They also got Todd Gurley in free agency, and I've said that I don't think that Todd Gurley is very good anymore. But that being said, he's still better than Devonta Freeman. Devonta Freeman was one of the least bottom running backs. Now, the big problem with them, they did lose Austin Hooper, which is definitely a huge loss for them because he was great last year. However, their defense is developing. They'll probably get someone good in the draft. We'll see. Maybe Clavon Chasen. At number 5, I've got the San Francisco 49ers. So, people are always going to get mad at this when I put them so low, but really, they shouldn't go any higher than this. Yes, they had a great year last year, but do you really think that they're going to keep on going to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo? I just highly doubt it. I mean, just an average quarterback, nothing to write home about in Jimmy Garoppolo. They have a stellar front seven on defense, although they did lose to Forrest Buckner. That being said, for Forrest Buckner, they got a 13th pick, so I'm expecting them to just to fill the hole that they lost with Emmanuel Sanders. So it's like they're not really gaining anything at wide receiver if they go and draft someone. It'll probably just be someone who'll be around Emmanuel Sanders' skill level, and then they just lost one of their defensive linemen. So I don't know. I just see them definitely being worse, but we'll see. At number 6, I've got the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles, they've always had a really good team. The past 4 years, they just are missing 1 or 2 pieces every year, except the year that they went and won a Super Bowl. They had everything. But I mean, now they went out and acquired Darius Slay. Now that trade was crazy because Darius Slay is a top 10, maybe top 15, maybe if you put him a little outside top 10. Regardless, he's an amazing cornerback. And the Lions just traded him for pretty much nothing. And also, Eagles in free agency get Jayvon Hargreaves, former Steeler, who last year was the number 1 pressure per play percentage amongst interior defensive linemen. And, I mean, add a receiver in the draft, they should be set. At number 7, I've got the Seattle Seahawks. So, my power rankings I made a couple weeks ago, I actually had them around, I think it was either 9 or 10. And this one isn't really because of free agency that I'm putting this up. In fact, they might actually be losing someone in free agency, Jadeveon Clowney, although I do think they will find something to re-sign him. But the reason that I ended up putting them back up is because when you really do the thinking, every year I feel like we look at the Seahawks and we're like, this team might not be great this year. But then you forget they have Russell Wilson and he pretty much just carries them. So when you've got a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, I think you've just got to put them in the top 8 no matter what. At number 8, we've got the Green Bay Packers. Now, with Rodgers aging, we saw the regression. I mean, he was good, don't get me wrong, and he makes good decisions. That's not going to change. He didn't really throw many interceptions. However, we saw regression in just the pure arm talent of his. Devontae Adams is really his only good receiver. I mean, I'm not trying to disrespect Marquise Valdes-Scantling or Geronimo Allison, but they're just not the kind of wide receiver to fill in the wide receiver 2 role. And, I mean, they've got tremendous outside linebackers on defense, and there's Darius Smith and Preston Smith. Secondary is much improved. Jair Alexander was amazing this last year. They just got some good players on defense finally, and that's where they've struggled in years past. But they've got a pretty solid team all around, but I just don't see them above the 8 range. At number 9, we have got the Los Angeles Rams. So the Rams, if you were following at all, lost Dante Fowler and Corey Littleton, which were both pretty big pieces of their defense. However, they did find a way to get rid of Todd Gurley's ugly contract, and that's good for them. They've still got, though, even with players lost, they have a great 3-receiver duo or trio. Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks, and Robert Woods, all great receivers. And last year, through the second half of the season, you had Higbee's emergence. We'll see if that's going to keep on happening or not. I think it will. And, I mean, Sean McVay is still a top 5 head coach. I mean, he's a brilliant offensive mind. And, I mean, he's good defensive mind, too. Still got a good pass rush, though, with Samson Ebukam and Aaron Donald. And out of safety in their secondary isn't even bad. Jalen Ramsey's still a top 20 corner, and they've got other guys. They're just missing a piece or two. At number 10, I've got the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I know some of you guys are probably going to think that this is a little too high for them, especially with Byron Jones, a really good man-to-man corner, being lost of theirs through free agency. But, I still think they're going to be a good team. I mean, their problem last year was coaching. Last year was 100% a result of bad coaching. And, I mean, the thing is, Dak Prescott, you can make fun of the Cowboys all you want. He's not a bad quarterback. And Ezekiel Elliott's still a great running back. Amari Cooper's back. Also, they signed him to a 5-year, $100 million deal. So he'll be back playing well. I mean, they've got depth in wide receiver with Michael Gallup. Yes, they did lose Randall Cobb, but they're still a good team all around. They're They're good on defense, good on offense. They should be able to be top 10 this next year. At number 11, I've got the Denver Broncos. So I think Drew Lock is severely underrated. We saw what he did through 5 games last year. They went 4-1. He put on a show against the Texans in their win over them. And guess who their one loss was to? The Super Bowl champion Chiefs. So you can't really give him crap for losing that one game, even though he did play awful in that game. But he played well in the 4 other ones. And that was, I mean, people forget that's his first 5 games. The other rookies that played that year, they'd already played a bunch of games. Your first 5 games are always not going to be as good, and yet he still played great in his first 5 games. I mean, I think he'll be great. And then you've got Courtland Sutton on their team, who was just broke out last year. He's outstanding. I mean, he just mossed some dude 10 times last year. And you've got Bradley Chubb paired with Von Miller on defense. I mean, they've got a good team. Yeah, they did lose Chris Harris in free agency, who was their best corner, but they'll still be good. Plus, I mean, he was getting older, so maybe that's for the best of them. At number 12, I've got the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I don't want to overhype the Cardinals because obviously they are going to be a lot better because they added a piece or two on defense, and then also they've got DeAndre Hopkins now, and they re-signed Kenny Drake, so they'll have him for a full year. Kyler Murray will develop. Plus, they got draft picks, so obviously they will be better, but I don't want to too overhype them, so I got them at 12 right now. Like I said, DeAndre Hopkins, he's going to absolutely help them in the passing game. Pieces on defense, Drake's back again. Kingsbury's not a bad head coach. I don't know why people always say that. Just because he had a losing season. I mean, he's a good offensive mind. He just needs pieces. I mean, he hasn't gotten a long chance as a head coach yet. As long as he gets the pieces to work with, he'll make them work well. And also, in the draft, they'll probably get Tristan Wirfs at number 8. And he's an offensive tackle. If you guys aren't following the draft, that should help them a lot. And it should help give Kyler Murray time in the pocket to make better throws and not make the interceptions he did this past year. At number 13, I've got the Tennessee Titans. So the Tennessee Titans, they did tag Ryan Tannehill, and they put a transition tag on Derrick Henry so that they could match an offer. And so they ended up signing him to $10.8 million for a year. So this is pretty. Oh, by the way, yeah, they didn't. Sorry, I misspoke. They did not tag Ryan Tannehill. It was a 4-year, $112 million deal. But anyways, so with those two returning, I can tell you I did not expect that at all. If you saw my podcast a couple weeks ago about power rankings, I said that I had them at 17, I believe, because I thought that there's no chance that those two would both return. I thought it was one or the other. But here we are, they're both here. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to hop on the Tannehill train and say that he's a top 5 quarterback now. I just think that he's an average quarterback, which is much better than what Marcus Mariota was. So just having an average or a little bit better than average quarterback, such as Ryan Tannehill, it's going to really help them out. You saw it there. That's all they need with Derrick Henry. I mean, Derrick Henry, possibly the best running back in the league. I'm not going to get into that, though, because probably going to get a lot of hate if I say that. So just possibly the top running back in the league, and he should be able to carry them. At number 14, I've got the Houston Texans. So the Texans, they did go a couple down since my last power rankings, and the reason for this is because if you weren't following, they did lose DeAndre Hopkins, who was really the centerpiece of their offense. I mean, I still have them at 14, though, because with Deshaun Watson, they've got Will Fuller. I mean, if Will Fuller can stay healthy, he never can, so that's always a big if. He usually plays half of his games. But if he can stay healthy, Will Fuller can be a big... He can produce a lot in that offense. So with Deshaun Watson still there, they did add Randall Cobb. So, they're still not terrible. Offensive line needs work. A lot of missing pieces on defense. But they've got a few superstars such as J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson that you can't really put them outside of your top 15. At number 15, I've got the Buffalo Bills. So I was really set on the Buffalo Bills being that team that takes a big dip. Because every year, there's that 1 or 2 teams that were great the year before, but then they start taking a huge dip the next year. And I just didn't think the Bills were that talented as a whole. I don't think Josh Allen's I don't even know if he's a top 15 quarterback, to be honest. He's very average, in my opinion. A lot of people don't see that way. Some people even put them in their top 10, but I mean, he's just not as accurate as a lot of quarterbacks are. And they had a lot of close games that they won. That being said, adding Stephon Diggs was huge. Josh Allen has a huge arm, possibly the biggest arm in the league. It's definitely between him and Patrick Mahomes. So they needed a deep threat, and Stephon Diggs is that guy. Stephon Diggs, though, will probably take a hit for fantasy production just because Kirk Cousins was even a more accurate deep ball thrower. But the team as a whole, they should definitely be going a bit up because of Stephon Diggs. They did lose their first round pick, but I think right now 15 is a good spot for them. At number 16, I have got the New England Patriots. So I said in my last Power Rankings video that Tom Brady's not a great quarterback, but I still put them at I think number 7 or so. But the thing is, a Power Rankings is how good they are right now. I don't think they'll be as bad as 16. Their defense is just too good. But right now, they don't really have a quarterback on their roster that can even play. So once they get a quarterback, whether that's Jameis Winston, a dude in the draft, whatever they decide on, I'm sure Bill Belichick will make the right decision. But either way, right now, they are number 16 because their offense will not be able to even play really with the quarterbacks they have right now. All they have right now is Jarrett Stidham, who he's not a franchise quarterback. He might not be absolutely terrible, but they need to get someone else. They will move up in this Power Rankings, but like I said, Power Rankings is how good they are right now. At number 17, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they are taking a dip from my last one because they did lose Jayvon Hargreaves. And Jayvon Hargreaves, I think he's really underrated. Last year, 2019, he had the highest pressure percentage from an interior defensive lineman. That includes guys like Aaron Donald and Fletcher Cox. So he is very underrated. People didn't realize how good he was just because TJ Watt kind of overshadowed him on that. But losing him to the Eagles was really bad for them. And, I don't think that Big Ben is elite anymore. I mean, he's still going to be fine, but, they're not going to be as good as they were they're going to be about as good as they were last year because their quarterback situation is better, but they did lose a big piece on defense. So we'll see how that goes over there. Hopefully they can add someone in the draft to do it, but they don't have a first-round pick, so don't know how they're going to add pieces to fill in Jayvon Hargreaves. At number 18, I've got the Minnesota Vikings. So the Minnesota Vikings, I had them at 13 or so on my last one, but they obviously took a big dip in free agency. So in free agency, they cut Xavier Rhodes, which is honestly probably good for them, but then they also lost Trey Waynes, who was their top corner last year. Well, him and Mackenzie Alexander who they also lost Mackenzie Alexander, who was their slot corner. So pretty much now they've got no corners on their team, which can be a big problem. And then they also lost Stephon Diggs, which, yes, they did get a good haul of picks, but those picks aren't usually good from day one. So they need to develop. So this year, as of right now, I've got them at 18. We'll see if that changes. They might actually also get rid of Anthony Harris, so it's not looking great for the Vikings right now. At number 20, I've got the Cleveland Browns. So many of you guys are probably going to think that I actually would put them up now they got Austin Hooper, but really free agency, they go a little down because they're starting right outside linebacker Christian Kirksey was lost via free agency. I actually don't remember who picked him up. I think it was the Green Bay Packers. And then they also lost their middle linebacker, who was a big part of their defense last year, took a big step up last year, Joe Schobert. So, yeah, I mean, that linebacker core, they're going to need to seriously fix it. I mean, look at the Browns overall. Their offense should be stacked. I mean, I know Baker Mayfield might not be the best quarterback, but David Njoku and Austin Hooper as your tight ends, that's the best pair of tight ends in the league probably right now. And then you've got Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, possibly the best wide receiver duo. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, a great running back duo. I mean, what more could you ask for on that offense? But the problem is, last year they had bad coaching. This year they do have better coaching, but until they can fix that linebacker core, I don't think I can put them above 20. Maybe a little bit above, but they got to fix that linebacker core or else it's not going to be good this next year. At number 19, I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady now at quarterback. So I only have them moved up a couple because I don't think Tom Brady's that great anymore. They might be able to sneak into the playoffs, who knows, but as of now, I just don't see them at that level. I mean, they don't have good running backs. Their defense's secondary is very lacking. They have a great front seven on defense, but if you don't have a good secondary, it can cause a lot of problems. Great pair of wide receivers, but I don't even think Tom Brady's going to utilize Mike Evans that much because who does Tom Brady throw to? Not deep guys. He throws to the slot guys and then the big tight ends. Yes, they have a couple decent tight ends, but they don't have someone the level of Gronk. So it's like Tom Brady. I mean, he's the GOAT, but like right now, he's not as good as he used to be. I think we can all see that he took a big step back last year. So Buccaneers right now, they're sticking at 19 unless some big move is made. Number 21, I've got the Indianapolis Colts. If you guys weren't following free agency, they did pick up Phillip Rivers, which was interesting because Tom Brady reportedly did reach out to them, but they turned him down because they thought that Phillip Rivers had more time in him left, which I can totally see. I mean, Phillip Rivers is 38. Tom Brady's going to be 44 soon, so it makes sense, but it's still a surprising move because you think most teams would probably still take Tom Brady just because of his name and the Super Bowls he's won, obviously. So, but anyways, so yeah, the Colts have Phillip Rivers. I think it's a step up from Jacoby Brissett, but not a huge step up. He's going to make more mistakes than Jacoby Brissett did. He's going to throw more interceptions. However, he also will be able to make better throws. Phillip Rivers is still extremely accurate. He just makes bad decisions. So I think it will help out T.Y. Hilton if T.Y. Hilton can stay healthy. I don't think that Phillip Rivers is really going to be a fantasy asset this next year, but he should help the Colts a little bit. But actually, in the end, I mean, if they don't go to the playoffs, it's really hurting them because it would be better if they just tanked and got a good draft pick. But win-loss wise, he should help them a bit. At number 22, I've got the Chargers, who now lost Phillip Rivers. Tyrod Taylor isn't the worst quarterback you could ask for, but he's definitely not going to lead them on a playoff run. They do have an insane secondary now because now adding to their already good cornerback duo, they have Chris Harris now from the Broncos. That's a crazy cornerback trio with Casey Hayward, Chris Harris, and then Desmond King working the slot. We'll see how that goes because I have seen rumors where they will trade Desmond King, which would not surprise me because you don't need three cornerbacks playing at that level, nor do I think that their cornerbacks would all want to be on the team because they're not going to get as much playing time as they should for their skill. But right now, the Chargers are going to be sitting at 22 just because they don't really have a quarterback who can play well. I think they might go and get Justin Herbert. We'll have to see with that. Interesting with the Justin Herbert thing because who knows, he might go at number 5 to the Miami Dolphins. There's been reports that the Dolphins are actually interested in maybe going Justin Herbert over to Tagovailoa. So that's a situation to keep an eye on if you are a Chargers fan. It has big implications for the Chargers for possibly the next 20 years, depending on who the Dolphins pick at number 5. At number 23, I have the Chicago Bears. So they would be a little higher, honestly, if they were starting Nick Foles over Trubisky. But the GM came out and said that they're letting Trubisky, like, he's got the role if he can prove it in training camp. And that worries me because I feel like this happens every year. They say this, and then Trubisky goes out, no, he proved himself in training camp. But it's the same thing every year. Trubisky's always going to suck, so they think they just kind of move on from him. Nick Foles, he's not the best quarterback, but he's also not the worst. I mean, he led a team to a Super Bowl. You got to give him at least some credit. You think Trubisky can do that? No, I don't think it's possible for Trubisky to do that. So I think that if they use Nick Foles, they will be a couple spots higher on this, possibly even above the Vikings. But for now, if they continue to use Trubisky, they're not going anywhere. I don't care what defense they have. Trubisky's not leading them anywhere. At number 24, we have got the now Las Vegas Raiders. Yep, that's right. Not anymore Oakland. It is now the Las Vegas Raiders. Kind of weird saying that now. But anyways, they did bring in Marcus Mariota to compete with Derek Carr. That's not a good look at all. That shows that they don't really trust in Derek Carr. In 2016, Derek Carr was second in MVP voting. Yeah, not looking good anymore for him. In just a couple of years, he's drastically went downhill. This last year, they honestly had a team that possibly could have made it. Statistically, he did not do bad, but I mean, at some point, you've got to bring your team to the playoffs, and he just hasn't proved that he can do that yet. But overall, they've got an improved defense with the draft picks they had last year. Improved offense as well. Josh Jacobs is a great running back. Hopefully this draft they can add someone like Jerry Jeudy. If they add Jerry Jeudy, they're going up this list a couple. Definitely what they're missing right now is a wide receiver. So maybe they can give Derek Carr the weapons to succeed. They did add Jason Witten. However, I don't like that pick just because that might just take away from playing time for Darren Waller, and I think they need to leave Darren Waller out there even more than they already have been. He's their one good receiver right now. So we'll see how that goes, but you don't bring in someone like Jason Witten not to play at all. At number 25, I've got the Miami Dolphins. So the Dolphins have 3 first-round picks this draft, and that's big for them because they need to fill a couple holes on defense. Now, they did add Byron Jones, which is actually a huge pickup because now they have Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. That's a good cornerback duo. They also added in Jordan Howard to their offense. That's a good pickup. They draft Tua. I think they're a good team. They draft Herbert. I don't think so. So it all depends on really who they draft. That's why they're so low right now, but they can go up if they draft Tua. I mean, they'll go up a little bit probably if they draft Justin Herbert, but I don't know, actually. I don't know if I would rather have him than Fitzpatrick right now. But for sure, if they draft Tua, they will go up on this list, but we'll have to see who they draft. It's looking like maybe they'll draft Herbert now. At number 26, I've got the New York Jets. The Jets, you could make a case that Sam Darnold isn't a bad quarterback. I don't necessarily think he's bad, but that entire team isn't very good. I mean, Jamal Adams is having to single-handedly carry that defense. Wide receivers aren't the best. Le'Veon Bell's not playing his best anymore. Offensive line's bad. There's just not much to look forward to that on that team right now. At number 27, we've got the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford, and you know, like for the longest time, I always thought that he was a good quarterback, but I kind of started questioning that now because, yes, he is. He always has very good stats, but the thing is, he gets a lot of that in garbage time situations, and the thing is, he's never, no matter what, he's never able to bring his team to a winning season. And I think at some point you got to. It doesn't matter if you have bad pieces or not. He's been playing for long enough that he should have been able to lead his team to at least one playoff win by now. And they haven't won the playoffs once since he's been on the team. So I don't know. I think that entire team right now has got to be close to bottom 5. At number 28, we have got the New York Giants. So I do think that Daniel Jones is a franchise QB. I think that was a great pick by the Giants because no one was expecting it, not even the best of professionals. So it's a great job scouting by them. He does seem like he will be more successful than Dwayne Haskins. That being said, this year they are not ready in any way, shape, or form to be a playoff team. So if you're a Giants fan, you just got to wait it out a couple years. They should be back on the right track in a couple years. Some of these younger guys like Dexter Lawrence, on the defense. I mean, they're going to be better. I mean, that offensive tackle there is Will Hernandez. He's young, so they'll be good, but just give them a few years. They still got a lot of young players, Saquon Barkley, Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram. They've got a good young core. At number 29, going a few spots up from last where I had them my last Power Rankings video, is the Carolina Panthers with now Teddy Bridgewater and Robbie Anderson. So these two pickups in free agency will both help them. But at the same time, I don't see why they picked up Robbie Anderson when Teddy Bridgewater doesn't throw the deep ball. I mean, part of what's good about Teddy Bridgewater is he doesn't make mistakes. So you want him on a good team because he won't make mistakes. But the thing is, now with Robbie Anderson, you're kind of forcing him to take some deep shots, and that's not what Teddy Bridgewater is comfortable doing. So a bad team is not where you want Teddy Bridgewater. You don't want him on a bad team because he doesn't take shots. You want him on a good team that has a great defense that just needs you not to make mistakes. That's why the Saints were so perfect for him last year. They will not succeed with Teddy Bridgewater, but they won't be last in the league either. At number 30, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm just going to start us off by Gardner Minshew. He's the most overrated player in the league. Not just the most overrated quarterback, the most overrated player. People like him because he has a weird mustache. I mean, it's kind of weird at this point. Gardner Minshew, he had almost as many turnovers as he did touchdowns. I know you're going to say, no, he had 18 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions. Yeah, but you didn't look at his fumbles. He had like 16 fumbles. Yeah, only 10 of them were lost, but the other 6 very well could have been. He just got lucky that his team were able to scoop them up for him. So he's not going to keep on getting that lucky. And overall, he's a bad decision maker, and he doesn't make super accurate throws. He did what he was supposed to be like a 6th round quarterback or whatever he was. So it's not like he had this big high expectations. People are just overblowing his success. Number 31 is the Washington Redskins with Dwayne Haskins still is what I'm projecting. They need to pick a quarterback. I would also take Chase Young like they're probably going to do just because Chase Young, he's going to be a superstar, so they need Chase Young. It's going to help them a lot. Overall, they don't have a bad defense, but I think they're one of the worst teams. I think they might have a better record than the Giants just because the way it all kind of goes together. Even though they have similar schedules, Redskins is a little easier since they finished lower in the division than the Giants did last year. So I think they could have a better record than the Giants, but they're not going to be a good team. 4-12 around is where I'd project them. Unless they can go out and get a quarterback, but they seem to be delusional in thinking that Dwayne Haskins is actually a franchise quarterback. And to be honest, I think he did the worst out of any of the quarterbacks that played last year, the rookie quarterback, so we'll see. At number 32, the worst team in the NFL, I have the Bengals. So once again, this power rankings is how good they are right now. This isn't a prediction for how good they will be. This is what they are right now. And right now, without a quarterback, the Bengals are the worst team in the NFL. So if they get Joe Burrow, they will go up. But like I said with the other teams, they are the worst right now. Look, they went 2-14 last year. Obviously, they were the worst team. They haven't added anyone great since. So they're the worst team still right now. And yeah, that wraps up the list. Well, thank you all for listening to this episode of the ATFFBall show. I'll probably do a couple more power rankings, but